So you want to build a keyboard? You have come to the right place. You probably see a guy on TikTok flexing his word per minute on monkey type, and you hear that distinctive sound. Fuck. And you thought to yourself, how do you get that? Well, you have come to the right place. Here you see how to make a keyboard. You see how to select switches and keycaps, etc. Okay, so first, how to pick a keyboard. First, you need to have a clear budget because keyboards can be expensive on the expensive side. So it's a really expensive budget hobby, but it's good. So first of all, your layout. Keyboards have 7 layouts in total, but we'll be only talking about the main layout that almost everyone use. So first, the normal typical full size keyboard, or also known as the 100% keyboard. This keyboard is just the typical office keyboard. Yeah, this keyboard comes with modifiers, numpads, arrow, a navigation panel, and function keys. So the full size keyboard takes a lot of space, so it's not for everyone, but it's useful. But you sacrifice desk space for more keys. Most office work needs the numpad, so the full size keyboard is the most popular in working people that are at work. Next, the 10 keyless keyboards. 10 keyless is the same as the mechanical as the full size keyboard because it comes with the modifier, navigational panels, arrows, and function keys, but it does not have the numpad. And also the full size keyboard, they are really hard to find in the mechanical world. You don't really find them, so keep an eye for them. Next is the 75%. The 75% is like a much like a KDL, but the keys are more like smushed together, and they don't have some type of things like the navigational navigational panel, but they still have function keys, and typically that's what all of us need. Next is the 60%. The 60% keyboard is like the 75%, but it has no function keys. This type is the most popular in people that play games a lot. But I think right now, for me, 60% keyboards are really like not really easy to use because it lacks the F rolls, and it's harder to use a keyboard because you need to do a shortcut to use the F rows. So for me, I guess the 75% is better. Now, the 60% keyboards has some variations, like the 65%. The 65% keyboard is the same as the 60%, but with arrow keys. For the last one is 40% keyboards. So I guess the 40% keyboard is just impractical. Like you would never want to use these because it's very hard to use. It has like the typical stuff, the letters and things that, but it doesn't. You cannot type numbers on it, which is a big downside. So I would not recommend buying 40% keyboards. And please, when buying these things, keep an eye on what you're gonna buy. Like some keyboards are hot swappable while others are not. Hot swap is a function that some keyboards have that you can put switches on directly on the keyboard. So this makes changing switches easier, but some keyboards need soldering to remove switches or putting on switches. And also, this is very important. If you see the word GB or group buys, it's basically a Kickstarter. So you get the product really slow because they're still like they give off they give off the products in groups, so this can take about months to years. So I do not recommend at all. And moving on. Next, the switches. Switches are the things that are used to activate the word itself. So it's really important. So different types of which switches equals different types of sound. There's three types of switches in total. First is linear, second is tactile, third is clicky switches. So I'm gonna explain first what are linear switches. Linear switches help create like a smooth typing, so you can press it all down and have no pushback or things. Yeah, and most people prefer linear type switches. Second of all, tactile switches. It's basically a linear switches, but they create like additional pressure when you actuate them. And third, clicky switches. These switches are really similar to tactile switches, but they create additional sounds that are clicky. This is often associated with traditional or older styles of keyboards. But the problem with switches you cannot really know what you like except in try and error. You need to buy them yourself to try to use them. So switches are really hard to use. I recommend lubing them. Lubing them is like making switch go sounds easier and smoother, and it makes the whole experience better. But if you're lazy, you can also buy pre-lubed switches. But sometimes they are like badly lubed and bad. Or you can just send switches to someone to lube for you. I recommend buying switches from a website called Kinetic Labs. They sell switches, keyboards, mouse pads, desk mats, all of the types of switches. Moving on, we have the stabilizers. Stabilizers are things that keep your keys that are bigger than normal stable, like the spacebar, shift, enter, yeah, those things. And like I personally recommend the Durox V2 stabilizers. They are not too expensive, but it's really good. And there are two types of stabilizers: screw in and plate mount stabilizers. Screw ins are typically better for modding and things, but plate mount can be also good, but needs some modding to sound good. But plate mount has a bigger advantage in installing. It's way easier to install plate mount than screw ins. Also, don't forget to lube your stabilizers. So some stabilizers are like what you call like rattly, and it makes it really sounds bad. There are some things called holy mod or bunch of more mods that you can do with your stabilizers. I recommend searching up on YouTube how to mod stabilizers by Teha Types. He made a really good tutorial on there. Yeah, and that's it for stabilizers. Next, we have keycaps. Keycaps are the basically top of your keyboard or what you see every day, so you gotta choose carefully. Keycaps, there are two main types of the keycap materials, which is ABS or PBT. ABS keycaps will sound sharp, and PBT keycaps will sound deep or the word dark. But sometimes you can make like ABS keycaps can also sound dark, or PBT can also sound black or sharp. It it matters because the sound that is produced from a keyboard is every component matters, including keycaps, or the keyboard itself, or switches. It all matters, and including modding. Modding also helps. There are types of height of keycaps or different styles. First one, we're doing SA keycaps, which is the highest style. Uh, if you like a high profile keycaps usually make better sounds, like more like deep sounds or yeah. So higher profile keycaps for deep sounds, low profile keycaps for sharp sounds or clacky sounds. So the first high keycap is SA, and number two is Mix 1.0. Then it's OEM. OEM is original equipment manufacturer. So the keycap that comes with your keyboard. Now next we have Cherry. Cherry keycaps sometimes causes a problem with some keyboards. If your keyboard is your switch it no your keyboard is north facing LEDs, they will have interference with Cherry MX keycaps. So avoid using Cherry MX keycaps if you have north facing lights LED. Next is XDA and DSA. Keycaps can really influence your sounds of the keyboard, and it sounds really good if you have like a good keycap. Keyboard can be really heavy because of keycaps, and also keycaps sometimes they have like weird material, the latest keycaps are made of like metal and ceramic, which is like a gimmick to sell keycaps. And because the thickness and the tightness of the keycap is really deep, you can get darker sounds or like deeper sounds. So yeah, it's up to your preference. Lastly, I'm gonna talk about modding. Like said before, there's looping, and sometimes people create looping is not modding, but I think it counts. So modding is like when you add something to a keyboard to make it sound good. Like this is something called tape mod. Like sometimes if you buy a bad quality keyboard, you type and you hear the sound echoing. So people tend to fill the keyboard itself with tape to decrease echoing. And also like when sometimes if you polyfill, like you can literally fill anything with keyboard. Like I saw someone filled it with Play-Doh, but it's like sometimes the keyboard itself can shock and breaks because Play-Doh has a high content of salt and it can shock the keyboard. Also, tape modding has a high risk if your keyboard has battery, so beware of that. So, but if you're gonna mod it, tape mod with the battery, I suggest using electrical tape. Yeah, electrical tape. Or if your keyboard doesn't have batteries, just use painter tapes. And yeah, for stabilizers, there are tons of mods to make it sound better, like the Holy mod or the O-rings, and it can influence your keyboard sound a lot. So modding is an essential technique when you build a keyboard because you're seeing it every day. And I hope you enjoy the video, but be careful of scams in the internet. But that's it for today. Thank you.